I think I was around 15 when I saw him last. The dreams were starting to seem a little silly. We'd fight through obstacles and forces aligned against us, and eventually get to the monster, who by this point I pretty much knew for certain was loosely based on my father. We thrash him and banish him to the outland, the unexplored regions beyond our domain, the kingdom of the two princes, and peace and tranquility would once more reign supreme in our kingdom. In the past, we knew the monster would be back. Usually he'd collect another army of dream creatures, and we'd march to defeat him again. This time was different. We had fought harder. We had defeated him for good. The most recent battle had pitted great books against the monster's army of broken, empty bottles. In the end, when we were surrounded, the books had flown in, pages flapping like angels' wings, and they had formed a wall of protection between us and the broken ends of the jagged bottles, and shot out strings of letters, spelling out encouraging praises, shattering the bottles into harmless pieces of safety glass. And then we banished the monster again, this time for good, with the phrases I had heard in court, as the judge had imposed the real-life court order, which would eventually keep my dad away from me and my mom, until he drank himself to death 3 years later. I remember sitting next to Manny, that's what I called my imaginary brother, sitting on a huge upside-down L, I think, our legs dangling and swinging, both of us in our brilliant armor, with the clasped hands emblem on our chest plates. My armor silver, his gold.
Hey buddy, I'm going to go away for a bit. I think we've trounced the monster for good this time, and I think you have other dreamlands to explore,
he said, smiling. I didn't know then that he'd be gone for good. I could hear my alarm beeping faintly in the distance, and I could see the dreamscape sinking into the ground around me. This was a pretty typical way for our adventures to end, so as usual, I gave him a hug, and woke up with my arms thrown around my pillow. That was 20 years ago. Last night, I visited the land of the two princes again, after spending a few sleepless hours tossing and turning. Hours earlier, I had poured all my liquor down the drain in the sleeping room I was renting weekly. I had just come off a 3-day bender and had woken up covered in vomit, with nothing in the house but a half-empty bottle of vodka in my hand and a full bottle of pain pills that had rolled behind the fridge. It's likely that if they hadn't rolled away, and if I hadn't been too drunk to get to them, I would have emptied both bottles and ended up just like my dad. I knew that I had to stop drinking. I just didn't know how I could do it alone, and I had no one to help me. That's the thought I eventually fell asleep to, and I opened my eyes to the technicolor dreamscape of the land of the two princes. I looked down to see that I was clothed in bright gold armor, with an emblem of two hands clasping on the chest plate, and then I saw him, a smaller version of me in silver armor, with an emblem of two hands clasping on the front. His eyes were wide with curiosity and excitement, ready for adventure, ready for anything.
Hi, I'm Manny,
I said.
I'm your dream brother. We've got a monster we need to battle, and we can't do it alone.
We clasped hands, his small one in mine, and then we turned to face the monster that was threatening us and the peace of our kingdom. Hey guys and ladies, thanks for watching. If you want me to tell your story or read a creepypasta, email me at the address in the description. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at CoreyRhino. I want to thank Becauseisaidsotoo for sending me this story. He also did all the illustrations. I've done a couple other stories that he wrote. There was Good Boy. That was the first one I did, and I loved it because I love pit bulls. And then I did Unconditional Love, which was kind of a fresh take on like a burnout subject, let's just say, because I don't want to ruin anything. So you should check both of those out. He's on Reddit as Becauseisaidsotoo, all one word. And I'll probably be seeing if there's something else he'll let me do soon, so. Anyways, be good to animals, even people. So.
Ja, snäma, Bergsbus, Hush.